Welcome to my guide for the Hearthstone 2017 Standard September season. Yeah, I just want to go over some of the basics of this deck. This is a big budget deck. This is something that even if you're new to Hearthstone, you should be able to craft without too much trouble. The dust rating is pretty low for this deck, but it's also pretty powerful. Can get you up in the ranks, probably all the way up to level 10, maybe up to level 5 if you get a little more experience with playing the deck and play it a lot. Overall, yeah, it's probably not going to get anybody to legend, but like I said, it's really budget, so it's definitely good for newer players. So with that, let's jump into it. You can see the listing here of all of the cards in the deck, and I won't take the time to necessarily go over each of them, but I do just want to kind of talk about what the deck's strengths are, some combos that you should be looking at, how you should play this deck, and then we'll get into some mulligans as well. So this deck is hand buff Paladin, but it's played as a mid-range deck. So what that means is you really want to keep your opponent's board clear, and this deck does that primarily through minions. There's not a lot of spells, so you don't have a lot of wave clear, but you want to continue to trade up with the board so that you keep control of the board while building to your bigger finishers. So for the most part, you want to be taking out the enemy's minions and having control. This is not like a face deck where you're just trying to always do damage and just be quicker than the enemy. So that's the goal of a mid-range deck. You kind of just want to control everything and then get to the point where you can finish them off. So yeah, the mulligans, you want to mulligan pretty hard for some of your early 1 mana cards. The Firefly is a really great card. It's sticky, which is really good. A lot of later decks are going to have some removal tools, but this would use one of their removal tools and you're still left with a minion being replaced in your hand that only costs 1 mana. So that's a good one to have. Righteous Protector is also pretty hard to deal with level 1. You're not going to do massive amounts of damage with it, but you can maintain a lot of control through the board, and that's kind of the big highlight of this. It's a really great control card. Again, not a ton of damage. I mean, it's only a 1/1, but a taunt and a divine shield, you're going to take out a couple minions with that. Smuggler's Run is not one you want to mulligan for. If you have it in your hand, depending on the other cards, you might want to keep it, but for the most part, I actually like to use this later in the game to buff up some minions. It's not one you want to keep in your opening hand, typically. So those are your level 1 cards. You want to try and get some of those in your hand. A Grimestream Outfitter I would keep if you get it. Yeah, pretty much all the time. It's a 1/1, which is pretty bad for a 2 mana, but the buff that you get giving all the mana in your hand +1/+1 is really great. Aldor I would get rid of. You don't want to keep that. Rallying Blade I would get rid of as well, unless you're against a deck that you think is going to trade well into your minions and you're going to need that early weapon. That's one that you want to be able to pull out when you have a couple Divine Shields on the board, so you're looking at probably you're going to want probably 5-6 mana before you're trying to play that card. Stonehill Defender is an amazing card. Provides some taunt to slow the enemy down, as well as giving you a chance to discover another taunt minion. More often than not, you might get a chance to get a second Tyrian Ford Ring out of him, which is amazing value. So that's a really great card. But yeah, so that's one I would keep as well in your hand. Even though it's a 3 mana, go ahead and keep that. Wicker Flame, contrary to what you might think, you want to bury this card because it's going to buff up your Corpse Taker. It provides the lifesteal that makes that Corpse Taker really good, so get rid of Wicker Flame. Don't keep that in your opening hand. Same with Blessing of Kings. Shieldblade Champion, again, I would not keep. And then most of these, just based on the mana cost, you're not going to keep. So that's some mulligans going over that. You really want to be conscious of the deck you're playing against. If you're going against, like a Jade deck, or a really fast Murloc deck or something like that, you're going to want to mulligan really hard for this Righteous Protector. That's going to be a key card. Don't waste the value on the Grimestream Outfitter or the Smuggler's Run. You're going to look for something that's going to provide a lot of value by buffing that. One of the major cards is Corpse Taker. If you can get this to a 4/4 on a 4-drop, you're going to get Taunt, Divine Shield, and Lifesteal, and it's going to be a 4/4 minion for 4 mana. Ridiculously good value if you can buff that up to a 4/4. It's okay as a 3/3, but that's one that you're really going to look to buff up with, hopefully with the Grimestream Outfitter. The Spellbreaker is in here just to kind of get rid of some of the late. It's insurance for the late game. If you're going to be trading favorably and hopefully getting some damage off on the enemy, but it's if you get to the late game, there are a lot better decks than this. This is not an amazing late game deck. Corpse or the Spellbreaker should allow you to kind of break through some of those big taunt lifesteal minions. That's pretty popular with priest decks, so you can kind of silence the taunt or something that you can't deal with, and then just try and finish them off. Scalebane is something that you're going to want to keep out there as long as you can, so put it behind another taunt minion, maybe a Corpse Taker, maybe even just a Righteous Protector if you have that later in the game. Root it behind Tyrion is a great one. Bone Mare is another really great card, and I don't want to overlook Spike Ridge Steed. It's pretty straightforward, but this card is pretty essential to the deck. It's so good. The value that it provides is crazy. +2/+6, and then when it dies, you summon a Stegodon, which is another 2/6 minion with taunt. So that's a really great card. So the theory of this is you're getting a lot of buffs for your minions and trying to trade up, and then you're gonna want to finish them before you get past more than 2 or 3 turns at 10 mana. If you get much past that, chances are you're not going to win. So keep that in mind. Try and play around that. So that's the deck. And I hope you have great success with it climbing the ladder. Thanks for watching.